Hello, and welcome back to France Made Simple, the podcast where I demystify life in France and debunk some of the many myths that surround living here. Now, today we're talking about being green, which I probably should put a green t-shirt on, but I've got a blue stripy t-shirt on. Anyway, going green in terms of environmental issues and concerns. And this came about from a chat I was having with somebody over supper at a barbecue on Saturday night. And it was quite interesting, and it made me stop and think about how many environmentally friendly features we can incorporate into our French homes. Whether you're starting from scratch, renovating, or just improving your French property, there are lots and lots of areas where you can incorporate environmentally friendly features. So, and the good news is that saving the planet, or at least trying to, doesn't have to cost the earth, because you can add lots of green features for a relatively small cost. And other things may entail, a bigger initial outlay, but they will also save you money in the long run. So, what is a green home? And this was the question that sparked the debate on Saturday night. And how do you go about constructing one? And when you kind of mention the words a green home or maison écolo, people often kind of start thinking of straw bales and living without running water and constructing properties in mud. But I would say that a green or sustainable building is simply one that's been constructed or renovated in a kind of resource efficient manner. Because we all want to make an effort to do our bit for saving the planet, but one also has to be realistic, and everybody has to make decisions based on their personal circumstances. So I think if you try and renovate in a resource efficient manner, maybe that means using reclaimed materials, then you are also doing your bit. You don't have to just go down the straw bales road, although, nothing wrong with straw bales either. But one of the additional benefits is that a green home is also going to be a much healthier environment to live in, and will also provide savings in terms of running costs. And there are tax credits and benefits and grants available in France for the installation of environmentally friendly features, whether those are solar panels or rainwater harvesting systems or even just compost bins. So, there's never been a better time really than to try and put some effort into making your property that bit more green. So, for most of us, the location of our properties is governed by a number of factors, and many properties in the French countryside are quite isolated and require the use of a vehicle. Now, generally, there is no way around this, and especially if you have children or older people to transport around, then going for an electric bike to do all of your shopping is probably not necessarily an option. But you can quite easily minimize the number of trips you make to the shops by incorporating some green features into your home. And by this, I mean things like allocating space for a walk-in pantry so that you can shop for non-perishables in bulk. So you're not constantly getting into your car to go to the shops. And this is also going to save you money, because if you stock up on items which are on special offer, en promo in France, they are going to be cheaper. Now, if you have the space, creating a larder which you can keep cool will enable you to store things that are often kept in the fridge, but they don't really need to be. I'm thinking salad, vegetables, and so forth. And this might mean that you can have a smaller fridge with a better, energy rated fridge with lower running costs. And it is a viable option even for a large family if you are keeping your salad, veg, eggs, those things like that don't actually need to be refrigerated, but they need to be kept cool. You could even incorporate an underground fridge in your garden. I think another green tip is to design enough storage space for all the recycling to be kept out of the way until there's enough to justify a trip to the bottle bank. Again, another way of not constantly getting in your car to do your recycling. You may live in a commune where the recycling is collected, but for lots of us in more rural areas, recycling involves a trip to the bottle bank. So if you build yourself a big recycling area, or construct or organise a big recycling area for glass, plastics and magazines, you are not going to be constantly popping down the road in the car, which, all of those trips add up, and especially at the moment when fuel is so expensive. And a compost bin is an absolute essential. Many French many French communes will either give these away or sell them at a very minimal charge. So check with your local mairie about the arrangements for compost bins. And sometimes you can even be allocated composting chickens. I do have to specify those are free chickens for composting purposes and not for eating purposes. We don't eat our composting chickens, please. Now, I think the kitchen is a really important area when you're thinking about a green home because it's probably going to contain quite a large number of appliances, and older refrigerators can consume around 15% of a home's energy demands. I think of all household appliances, fridges use the most energy. Although don't quote me on that, because thinking about it, an inefficient eau chaude or water heater is probably quite hefty as well. But let's assume they use a large amount of your household energy. So I think if your fridge is more than 10 years old, it makes sense to replace it, and possibly even newer than that. Now, when you're buying, and you could also then use the old fridge as storage in an outbuilding for, I don't know, horse feed, chicken feed, dog food, nice, secure, rat-free environment. So there you go. That's a thought as well. When you are buying new appliances, check the EU energy efficiency rating labels, which are found on all new appliances, and always go for at least A rated. And if possible, go for something which has the highest A rating available, whether it's A++ or A+++. Make sure your windows are sited where they can be opened easily, because then you can remove cooking smells and indoor air toxins, and this is much more environmentally friendly than using an extractor fan. If you do need to use a fan because you don't have windows in the right place to open, use a high efficiency ceiling fan, because these use less than an extractor over the hob. They can also be quieter, which is an additional bonus. And make sure that your work surfaces are sited near to windows, because daylight is the best lighting and it is free. Now, I think it's important to be as energy efficient as possible throughout the house where lighting is concerned. And lighting is one of the least energy efficient practices in the home, with just 10% of the energy going towards light, and the rest is the byproduct of unwanted heat. So go for energy efficient or compact fluorescent bulbs. Now, these have a much better heat to light ratio, and their lower wattage means the energy consumption can be down by up to 70%. And very often there are incredibly good offers for these type of bulbs, which are online, and you can apply for them, and will be sent out to you for almost zero cost or at a very low cost. So keep your eye out for those. Now, another environmentally friendly thing you can do is to reduce water consumption. And I'm not advocating not showering or not flushing your toilets. I can't live like that. I'm sorry. I misses 2 showers a day. I have horses and dogs and get very dirty and dusty throughout the day. And I cannot occasionally I will not have a shower first thing in the morning if I'm going straight off to do the animals. But if I'm going out to work, I will need a shower in the morning just to wake myself up. So water, having said all that, water is a very precious resource and is getting ever more so. So I think it's well worth considering installing a rainwater harvesting system now to, benefit your wallet as much as the environment. And for people who've got big gardens, livestock, or big vegetable gardens, there are huge economies to be made here. The most basic method is just collecting rainfall from the roof in water butts. If you've got outbuildings, downpipes, gutters, all of those can be used to collect a really huge amount of water. And again, check out what your local commune offers in terms of free or cost price water butts, because very often those are on offer to encourage people to conserve water. Now, if you add an interior reservoir and a pump, then you can use the water domestically for washing machines and flushing toilets, as well as outside in the garden. And if you sink a big plastic tank, or cuve, as they call it in France, into the ground outside, you can store a huge amount, up to around 9,000 litres. Now, you could use this for washing your car, watering the garden, filling the pool. If you go down the road of getting it properly analysed and install filtration, it can also be used as drinking water, as well as for bathing and running the dishwasher. I think it's also worth upgrading toilets, shower heads and taps with newer models that are designed specifically to use less water. And it sounds basic, but it's really important. Always make sure there are no leaks in the tank and that dripping taps are fixed immediately, because these can add up to massive volumes of water being lost over a period of time. If you are building a new home, or even tackling a full-on renovation, and you have the opportunity to install a new heating system, it definitely makes sense to choose one based on renewable energies. And again, with a new build, clever building design, enough insulation can mean that very little additional heat is required. And you could simply heat your house with a wood or biomass fired boiler, or even a wood burning stove. We do that here. It's basically a passive house with a really high level of insulation, and we are absolutely toasty with just one wood burner in the centre of the house. Also means that in case of power cuts, we still have heat and a source of, because it has a flat top, we could actually cook on it, though we also have gas bottles for that very same reason. Now, I think installing solar panels as an additional form of hot water supply makes sense for virtually everybody these days. Very occasionally, your property won't be in the right position to make this worthwhile, or maybe you're not going to be there for long enough. But again, grants and funding for this make it well worth considering. You could also think about harnessing wind power to top up your electrical requirements and sell any excess back to the French grid, EDF. And a ground source heat pump is going to provide you with cheap, reliable, and environmentally friendly electricity. But often these only preheat the hot water, so you might need some form of top up, and they do still use some electricity, so this has to be factored into your running costs. Now, you could provide this from solar photovoltaic cells, or another form of electricity generating system. And these systems can be reversed to run as cooling systems, or air conditioning, if you like, during the summer months. But I think really probably the most important area in terms of being environmentally friendly and reducing your running costs is insulation. And if you use natural products such as wool, hemp, cotton, hay, or straw, this is a great solution for the eco builder. Obviously, they all have slightly different properties, but they all tend to be good insulators. And there are constant new developments as new products come onto the market as a result of the huge interest in natural products. And this means that they are becoming much easier to work with. For example, you can now get straw insulation in the form of lightweight biodegradable panels they're made from compressed straw with a recycled cardboard outer layer. And I think, the increasing use of these type of traditional materials, even in the building trade itself, is quite interesting. Lime is one thing that's enjoying a revival. Now, most people know that lime is something that's been used in old buildings for hundreds of years, but fewer people realise that not only is its use beneficial for the environment, it's also suitable for new builds. Traditional lime plaster is porous and it absorbs moisture from the air. So if you use that with breathable paint, using lime is going to help to reduce condensation in the house. And its increased porosity actually offers an improvement in acoustic insulation too, which I did not know until I started researching this article. Now, the energy used in lime production is actually even far less than that for cement. So it sets by a process of carbonation, and it actually reabsorbs most of the carbon dioxide released from the limestone. It's also ideal for repairing older buildings, so it's pretty much a win-win as a building material. Now, outside the house, we're talking gardens and vegetable patches or potager. I think this is a part of the house, the home, where a little thought can have a really big environmental impact. Because an environmentally friendly garden is going to require less water and fewer chemicals. And this is safer for the occupants of the home, as well as it benefiting the ecosystem. Now, a green garden does need a well-designed irrigation system, whether you're collecting your hose, your own, or just turning the hose on. But, you can fine tune this according to your water requirements, and this will help your plants to grow better and stop you wasting water. Planting in the spring or autumn allows trees and shrubs to establish good root systems before the arrival of drier weather. And again, this itself reduces the water requirements of a newly planted landscape quite dramatically. So just think about the timing of when you plant stuff so that it can develop those established roots and you use less water to keep it alive for the first couple of years. Now, mulching preserves water as well as preventing erosion and reducing weed growth. And I think the other thing that's important in environmentally friendly gardens is the choice of plants too. You need to choose plants that are suitable for summer dry spells, subject to few kind of pests. They're low maintenance and ideally interesting to look at for at least a couple of the seasons. You're not going to find something that looks amazing all year round generally that fulfills all those criteria. But, think about planting grasses and plants such as salvia and sedum that require less water and are low maintenance. Now, growing and harvesting your own veg directly from the garden is absolutely fabulous. I love it. Not everybody does, but lots of us do. And it's an easy way to make your home and lifestyle that bit more environmentally friendly. And even people who don't think that they are green fingered find that things just seem to grow in the French sunshine and the soil. And even if you just grow a few herbs on your windowsill, it makes your house that bit greener. And they taste great too. But if you can possibly start growing your own veg, you don't need to grow everything from seed. All of the markets in rural France have very cheap and very sturdy plants on sale every week in growing season. So you can buy some beetroot, fennel, radishes. Well, actually, no, radishes anybody can grow from seed. Even I've managed that. Tomato plants, squash. Stick it in the ground and just enjoy. Don't worry for the first couple of years about doing it all properly. Just enjoy the experience. And, again, growing your own veg means one less trip to the shops to buy food. So I hope that episode's been inspiring, I would say, in terms of how green can you go when you move to France. Everybody's going to have their own different criteria. Everybody's going to have their own different, red lines as to, I'm not using a composting toilet, forget that. It's a very personal thing, but we can all do a bit and we can all enjoy the process too, I think. But anyway, let me know if you've got any ideas to make your home, house or garden greener, and I'll include those in another episode. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you, as always, to our sponsors, Fab French Insurance. And please keep those comments coming. I love getting them. And it's often very interesting in terms of future podcast episodes when I'm slightly running out of inspiration and thinking, oh, what could I talk about next? And people say, do you know what I'd like to know about? Green measures for French properties. Right, let's do that. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.